You know what really messes people up? It's not your anger. It's not the words you throw at them in a heated moment. It's the silence, the kind that doesn't come with a warning, doesn't come with a long message, doesn't come with closure. Just silence. The kind that says, "I'm done and I don't even need to explain why." That kind of silence shakes people to their core because they never saw it coming. They thought they had you figured out. You were always the one who replied, who forgave, who gave second, third, fourth chances. You were predictable, and that predictability was their power. They knew they could hurt you and you'd still show up. They knew they could disappear and you'd go looking. They built a version of you in their head, a version that stayed. No matter how messy it got, you'd stay. Until one day, you didn't. When you finally stop reacting, when you stop giving them the emotional fuel they fed off of, the game ends. And not with a bang, but with a whisper they can't ignore. You didn't yell. You didn't beg. You just stopped. No texts, no calls, no late-night paragraphs, just absence. That's when the illusion breaks, not just of the relationship, but of the control they thought they had over you. And that's what truly messes them up. Not your leaving, but the fact that you really left. No drama, no door left open, just quiet detachment. The silence doesn't scream for attention. It announces self-respect. It tells them they don't get to know what's going on in your mind anymore. That access has been revoked, and that's what shakes them most, because they didn't lose the person they knew. They lost the version of you they never imagined, could walk away without looking back. You don't need to say a single word for someone to feel the shift. They feel it in the smallest moments, in the space where your presence used to live. They feel it when their phone doesn't light up with your name, when their posts don't get a reaction from you, when they look for you in their notifications and find only silence. You haven't announced anything. You haven't made a scene. But the energy changed, and they feel it more than they'll ever admit. That's the thing about emotional shifts. They speak loudest in silence. And while they may act like nothing's different, that's just the performance. Behind the scenes, they're noticing, they're wondering, they're waiting. They start to check more often. They keep an eye on who's watching their stories, half expecting to see you. They post things that feel a little louder, a little more directed, hoping to get your attention. But it doesn't come. And that's when the doubt begins to creep in. Because the comfort of your consistency is gone. You were their emotional safety net. Always showing up, always caring, always reacting. Now, nothing. And nothing is hard to ignore. It doesn't give them closure. It doesn't give them a reason. It just lingers. But here's the truth. They'll rarely admit that they feel it. Their ego won't allow it. They'll act unfazed. They'll tell themselves they don't care. But deep down, the quiet is screaming. It echoes in all the places you used to fill. And no matter how many distractions they chase or how loud they pretend to be, they can't drown out the truth. They feel your absence. Not just your presence disappearing, but your energy detaching. And that's not something they expected. That's not something they can control. And it terrifies them more than they'll ever show. They expected a reaction. That's what people count on. Some form of emotional feedback, even if it's anger, especially if it's anger. Anger means you still care. It means you're still engaged in the drama, still tangled up in the mess they made. That's what they were ready for. A fight, a long message, a dramatic goodbye, something they could twist, deny, or feed off of. But instead, they got nothing. You didn't argue. You didn't defend yourself. You didn't explain. You just stopped showing up. You removed your energy, your presence, your voice. And that's what unsettles them more than anything. Because when there's no noise, their mind becomes the noise. In the stillness, the questions start crawling in. Did I push too far? Why aren't they reacting? Are they really done with me? They replay every moment, trying to find where they lost control. They thought silence would be a weak move, something they could ignore. But they were wrong. Your silence becomes the mirror they can't look away from. It forces them to sit with everything they didn't want to face. There's no distraction in your quiet, no comfort in your distance. Just them. And the consequences of how they treated you. People can handle conflict because it gives them a role to play. But silence? Silence leaves them alone with themselves. And that's when the storm begins. They start overthinking, overanalyzing, wondering if you've already moved on, if you've stopped caring altogether. The absence of your reaction is louder than any words you could have spoken. You didn't need to scream. You didn't need to prove your pain. You just became still. And in that stillness, they lost their grip. Because the scariest thing they never saw coming was a version of you that simply stopped responding. At first, they feel free. They convince themselves they made the right choice, that walking away or pushing you away didn't matter. They tell themselves you'll be back. You always came back before. So they sit comfortably in their silence, expecting it to be temporary. They think time is on their side. But what they don't realize is that time doesn't wait for anyone. And in your silence, time starts working against them. Every hour you stay quiet chips away at their confidence. Every day you don't reach out becomes heavier than the last. What once felt like freedom slowly starts to feel like loss. Not all at once, but gradually, subtly. The door they thought they left cracked open begins to close. They start checking their phone more often. They look for signs, likes, views, messages, but none come. Your silence becomes a presence of its own, and it lingers. Time turns what they thought was distance into permanence. What they assumed was just space becomes a wall they can't climb. And every moment you stay quiet makes it harder for them to come back. Because now, the silence they thought they could ignore becomes the only thing they hear. It follows them into conversations, into sleepless nights, into the things that once distracted them. They begin to feel the weight of what they lost. Not just a person, but someone who truly cared, someone they thought would always be there. Eventually, the clock they thought was counting down to your return starts ticking in another direction. One where you're healing, growing, moving on. And that's when it hits. Not only are you gone, but they can't reach you anymore. Time didn't bring you back. It pushed you further away. And now, even if they wanted to fix it, they wouldn't. Nowhere to begin.